although the Conservative Party is often depicted as being fuddy-duddy and narrow-minded and unprogressive and backward-looking, it is actually the party that has been much better at promoting women to leadership and promoting minorities to leadership as well.
Welcome to The Debrief, where we talk with the Washington Examiner's top journalists about the headlines they're covering this week and where the story's going next. I'm Sarah Westwood, and I'm here today with Editor-in-Chief Hugo Gurdon. And Hugo, in your column this week, you write about the ascension of Liz Truss to be Prime Minister of the UK. You talk about how, she was chosen by the British Conservative Party. That party typically faces some of the same criticisms that Conservative Party in America does, about a lack of diversity and even racism. Why is that wrong? What's different about the Truss government?
It's very interesting that although the Conservative Party is often depicted as being fuddy-duddy and narrow-minded and unprogressive and backward-looking, it is actually the party that has been much better at promoting women to leadership and promoting minorities to leadership as well. None of the other parties has had a female leader, but the Conservatives have had now 3 prime ministers who were women. First of all, most spectacularly successfully, was Margaret Thatcher. Then there was Theresa May, who was not a successful prime minister, but nevertheless she was elected leader by the party. And now there's Liz Truss, and indeed there were several women who were strong contenders for the leadership of the Conservative Party. So the Conservatives have had 3 women leading them, and 3 of them have been prime minister. Likewise, on the matter of race, the party that is more often criticized for being narrow-minded on race, and indeed I saw a headline, I think it was in the New York Times recently, about Liz Truss being, in the thrall of empire. And that's the kind of idea that makes people think that the Conservatives are backward-looking on matters of race and the empire, etc. But she has appointed people of color to the 3 great offices of state. There's the equivalent of the Treasury Secretary, which is the Chancellor of the Exchequer. There's the Home Secretary, which is the equivalent of Homeland Security and Interior Secretary. And all 3 offices are filled by people of African or African and Asian descent. So the Conservative Party is forward-looking in that way, and don't believe that their leaders have to come from the old boy network, which is the way that they're depicted.
Do you have high hopes for the Liz Truss government after the sort of rough, rocky end to the Boris Johnson government?
It's very difficult to be optimistic about her chances of success. The probability is that she faces a general election in the fall of 2024, so she has perhaps 2 years, but she is immediately heading into what is bound to be a winter of discontent. Inflation is running at better than 10%, which is to say worse than 10%, higher than 10%. And there's a grotesque energy shortage because of the policies of the previous government wanting to get to what they called net zero by 2035, and that is therefore discouraging fossil fuel use. Liz Truss has now decided that she's going to encourage fracking and indeed offshore drilling. She wants domestic production of energy. And it's very good to see that some of these things now, good, decent policies that are going to encourage economic growth being brought in. But she's going to have a very tough time of it because, undoing bad policy can prove very painful. But you have to do it in order to get to good policy.
As of right now, at the time of this taping, the Queen appears to be gravely ill. What will it mean when the Queen does pass on, and what do you think the future of the monarch will look like without her?
Yeah. Well, Sarah, it's interesting that, obviously we were talking in the context of Britain, so when you refer to the Queen, everybody knows that you're talking about the Queen in Britain. Mm-hmm. But all over the world, you don't have to say that. If you just say the Queen, everybody knows who you're talking about. They're talking about that Queen, even though there are other queens. She is one of the sort of great, the most recognizable people in the world. She has been on the throne for longer than any monarch in the history of Great Britain, in the history of England. She has seen Great Britain through extraordinary social change, and she is much beloved. One of the things, perhaps the thing that she has done, is been steady and unflappable, and has been adaptive to the times. She is greatly loved in a way that the heir to the throne, Prince Charles, the Prince of Wales, is not. And it's going to be extraordinary and fascinating to watch how the country moves once the Queen is no longer on the throne. Now, as you say, as we talk, she is very ill, and there's a great deal of concern. But there has been no announcement that she has died. So we just have to hope that she gets better, and that this particular crisis passes. But it's not going to. I mean, the day will come when the monarchy is inherited by Prince Charles, and I think there's probably a lot less support in the country for him than there has been for the Queen that is loved. But I wouldn't want to exaggerate that. I think that there is broad support for the monarchy in Britain, and that that Prince Charles would come in as king with higher levels of support than he enjoys now as the Prince of Wales. So it will be an enormous transition. There will be a huge state funeral. There'll be an upwelling of public mourning and sympathy, which will surpass what we saw when Princess Diana died. But this is a huge constitutional moment over there, and it will be watched by the entire world.
Well, Hugo, thank you so much for being here today. You can get more writing from Hugo and the rest of the commentary team at washingtonexaminer.com.